Alex, do you want to take over?
Basically, what you have before you on your table is a bid tabulation sheet prepared by the engineer of the parking authority. It's a one-page document. Unfortunately, I don't have enough for everyone. I did print out a bunch. Anybody, I guess, is welcome to come and get them as first come, first serve. These are just basically, this is public record. There's no nothing secretive about this. I just don't have maybe all the copies that people may want. I'll put them on the chair here. At 11 a.m. this morning, the parking authority opened up 2 bids from 4 different companies. Each bid, or each company submitted a bid. As you can see on the tabulation, for base bid 1, the totals were for Carl Walker 2.197745, so $2,197,745. The total for base bid 1 for Restoration East LLC was $2,228,518. For CPS Construction, base bid 1 was $2,322,000. And then finally for Nathan Contracting, base bid 1 was $2,441,757. This bid was for the rehabilitation of the entire garage. The second base bid was the proposal to reconstruct the entire garage. And you can see the sums as follows. Carl Walker Construction, $3,274,700. Restoration East LLC, $4,645,578. CPS Construction, $3.1 million, and Nathan Contracting, $3,060,888. And again, this was prepared by Dan Schmidt and presented to me this afternoon. I have a second, I guess, further analysis of the bid tabulation. If you recall, when the bids were submitted September 2nd, they included estimates about plumbing, electrical, and mechanical. Because of the separations of bid acts, or however you would say it, the prime contractor can't submit to us a total cost for the entire project. So what we asked them to do, or what the parking authority asked them to do, is submit those estimates. So when you're looking at these figures, recognize whether it's Carl Walker for base bid 1 at 2.197, or Nathan Contracting for the base bid 2 at $3,060,000. These will not include, or do not include, the electrical, the mechanical, and the plumbing costs. Okay. So what I did was I went ahead and analyzed different variations of that. If you recall, we had 3 bidders. I did one scenario that added to these costs the average of the 3, a second scenario that averaged the 2 lowest, and then the third scenario that just took in the lowest to account. So you can get an idea of the range, of cost. And I think what we wanted to do, Deputy Mayor, tonight was just to give the council the information necessary to kind of begin to process this. The parking authority has not scheduled a meeting. They will likely schedule one soon, but I think they're interested in knowing kind of the interest of council. So with your permission, I'd like to pass out another handout for you all, please.
Oh,
go ahead.
We turned off?
I think we are.
We're turned
We turned us off?
Yeah, it's off.
Okay.
This is a 6-page handout, and you might want to take a minute to familiarize yourself with it.
I think the bottom line for us as a council to decide is which direction we're going to go and how much money we're going to spend, how much money we can afford to spend. Because I think the parking authority recognizes that we have to float the bond.
So again, if you could just quickly go over this sheet just to get you familiarized. I'm trying to make it simple, but I know it's a lot to look at. This analysis basically takes the base bid 1 and ranks them, as you can see on the bottom. When you go to the right of the landscape formatted page, you'll see 3 columns: average, range, and percent of average. So basically, I've added them together, divided by 4 to get an average. So for example, of the 4 bids, the average is $2,297,505. And then what I did was give you the idea of the range between the high and the low bid. which for base bid one was $244,012. And then that last column is really that number, the range, divided by the average. And this gives you an idea of deviation. The higher the percentage, the farther or greater the deviation between the high and the low bid. So for example, if you look on page 1, it's 11%. On page 2, it goes up to 45%. And on page 3, 163%. Remember, page 3 starts to get into that estimated costs for the electrical, the plumbing, and the mechanical from the September 2nd bids. We did not receive those estimates for this bid package.
Alex, I want to ask you a question.
Go ahead.
Total electrical, mechanical, and plumbing, you have here $374,000. Would that figure be used across all the other bids, that one single figure?
Let's look at page 3 together.
Okay.
Okay. This sheet was based on the September 2nd submission of the 3 submitting firms, which were Carl Walker, CPS, and Nathan Contracting. So just going from left to right, you can see what they estimated. Electrical, mechanical, plumbing. Carl Walker, total 374. That's based on a phone call, which explained to us that the elevator was included up, it needed to be included down here. That's how we got that total. But there was basically an $80,000 adjustment. You can see the footnote on that. $45,000 for the estimated mechanical plus $80,000 gives you the $125, totaling $374. CPS estimated this part of the job would cost $2,590,000. Nathan Contracting estimated it would cost $1,125,000. As I noted before, the average is 1.363. The range is 2.2 million, and the deviation, if you will, is wild. There's a high deviation. So what I've decided to do was that scenario 1, which is taking base bid 1, base bid 2, and adding 1.3 million to it. Scenario 2 would be base bid 1, base bid 2, adding 749,000, which is just the average of Nathan and Carl Walker. And in scenario 3, we just take Carl Walker's number and add it to base 1 and base 2. So that page 5 is scenario 1, page 6, or 4 is scenario 1, page 5 is scenario 2, and page 6 is scenario 3. And on those pages, you can see the highlighted figures. For example, page 4, if we were to add that $1.3 million, or basically $1.4 million, Carl Walker's bid would rise to $3.5 million and $4.4 million. And I say their bid plus this cost. And what I'm trying to give you is the estimate of financing. If you recall, back in March, you guys had a conversation related to financing. PNC submitted numbers to you, giving you an idea of what it would cost to finance 2.5 million and I believe 3.5 million. So this is meant to help you look at that. Page 6 is the other scenario, the opposite end. It basically says to you that if you take the bid plus estimated cost for electrical, mechanical, and plumbing, you're looking at 2.5 million to 3.4 million. And again, you can see the different averages and so forth there. This is only meant to help you kind of squish and rearrange the numbers and get a figure in your head of where we're going. These bids accepted today were not for those other estimated items. That's as far as, this is the information I'm going to present. And I think what I think council might want to do is have a conversation about these things. I think it's obvious the public is anxious, kind of wants things, the business owners, the residents, the shoppers and so forth. So I think, we don't have a parking authority meeting scheduled, but council should be in agreement with whatever they're doing, and you might want to have a discussion. This is a good chance to at least ask questions.
Okay, my question is, why is Carl Walker estimating the electrical, mechanical, and plumbing at $374,000, and CPS is estimating at $2,590,000? That doesn't seem to be any connection there between the two.
Unfortunately, I'm not able to answer that question.
I know, but that is a deviation.
That's
It just
That
seems
estimation,
way out
I
of
don't say
their
Carl
range.
Walker probably does their own in-house.
Could be. I think the question before
What's
us.
that? Well, here.
Go ahead.
Right there, ask that.
Well, but my question is, which one do you think is accurate?
Oh,
Well, we have a gentleman from both CPS and Carl Walker here.
Do we have a representative from the parking authority?
No.
He couldn't make it. We don't have anyone from Gibson Thomas. And,
And
So we're
in
gonna
any
keep going back
case,
and forth.
But go ahead.
in any case,
No.
Yeah, but
you know,
I can
I don't know
explain
what
it
the
if you'd like.
explanation is. It's 10 to 1.
No, I can explain it to you.
I don't know whether we even have to ask him that. I don't understand.
Right, it's scary.
It's scary to
It
ask him
is.
that. I just think that if we're going to work with numbers, you know, to try to figure out what we're going to finance.
Yeah, but before we get to that, even before we get to the finance, we've gotta decide whether we're going to rehab or total construction.
But Rosie, if you add
I
2.5
know.
million to any of those
I know
bids,
that.
either the Nathan
Well,
or the
before we
Walker,
get in-
we're not gonna be able to do
I
it.
know.
Richard,
And
before
here's another way to look at it. What we asked them for today, if you go back to page 1,
Yeah.
was estimated cost to prepare specification for electrical contract, mechanical contract, plumbing contract. Until you do that step, which in the minimum will cost you, you know, $18,000, and you can see the maximum is a lot different.
You're gonna have
You
to
won't
bid.
be able to have any bids. You'll just have guesstimates or estimates. So that's part of the deal. We haven't spent the money to get the detailed drawings for somebody to put a bid on any of these particular items. And that's, but why the fluctuation is so wild or so different?
But I think, if we're kind of, I mean, I understand what you're saying, and that's absolutely right. But I think we need to take the first step is deciding, we need to give the parking authority direction on whether we wanna do a partial, a rehab or a total reconstruction.
And before we even get into that discussion, the electrical, mechanical, and plumbing costs, would they be a constant regardless of whether or not we rehab it or rebuild it? Would they be similar? No?
Yeah,
Would they be, they're both agreeing,
Sure.
so that cost is something that we
Yeah.
really don't know at this point.
well,
Like,
I
Go
can,
ahead.
if you give me, I'll answer it as I can answer you something as an
Yeah,
engineer.
we're afraid, we're a little concerned about whether or not we can
Mr.
ask you
Deputy
questions since
Oh.
all the bidders aren't here.
Okay.
Our solicitor is.
But is it?
What happens if I answer a question as Chuck Church's professional engineer?
Is it,
You're still part of the bidder.
but,
Yeah, but this wouldn't be part of our bid.
Well, the
Mr.
point is,
It's a
sir,
matter of
unless,
information.
Oh, I'm sorry.
unless all bidders are here, I have cautioned council that we should not accept additional information from any bidder, unless all bidders are invited to attend. Now, if they're not here, if they're in choice, that's different.
I believe they were invited to attend to that.
You can ask, we can't.
You can ask privately.
Everybody.
So I can ask you the questions
No,
you're
no,
asking right now?
no,
you
no,
tell me?
no, we're not gonna play ring around the rosy here, no.
Well, that,
I
You
believe
can
they
ask
were
me
invited to
outside all
attend
you want.
tonight, weren't
then
they?
this meeting makes no sense.
Well, they all knew
Yeah.
that at the meeting, we were having the meeting,
Yeah.
correct, Alex?
Yeah, I
we
was
were made
sitting,
aware
I
that
sat
this
right
was-
beside
were you
Nathan
not
whenever
made
you
aware
guys
that
said
this
to come
was going to
tonight.
be discussed tonight?
Mr. Deputy Mayor,
Yeah.
my point is, regardless
Just-
of what the estimated cost of the plumbing is,
Right.
I don't think we can take a bigger bite than the Carl Walker bid of $2,197
$2 million.
plus the electrical, the mechanical, and plumbing. That's about it.
Yeah, cause the other,
We couldn't afford these.
Oh, I understand,
You know, you can't, we
Mr.
can't
Deputy
afford.
Mayor, may I-
Go ahead.
One of the problems we're gonna have, I don't care what we propose from here, is these bids are only being held open, as I understand it, for 90 days, maybe 60 days for sure. In order to get a firm number for financing, or the best number, we're gonna have to know the heating, electrical, and plumbing. Now, the only option available to us is to take an absolute worst-case scenario and say it might be as high as 2 million, 1.8 million, wherever we feel comfortable. Add that to the known cost, and then that becomes our bond issues. If we have money left over, fine, but if we don't, we'll have to make up the shortfall.
I think perhaps once we pick a contractor, or once we decide, then we may be able to work with them to get relatively close estimates. That would be my
Well,
guess.
until they do the design and bid it, they're not
Well-
gonna be held to any number they give us. Not
What?
Carl Walker, not anybody else.
To get back to that other question, were all the bidders invited tonight?
They were all made aware of the meeting.
Aware.
Well, I mean, there's no way in the world that someone doesn't show up to cancel out anyone else's view. I mean, you know.
Well, I'm of that opinion, but we're getting,
Yeah, but legally, they
Unless-
were
unless
invited.
it's-
If they don't show up.
We
you
didn't
can't-
actually invite them.
If they were told that there would be questions posed to the contractors and they bothered not to show, that's one thing. I don't know what they were told. If they were just told we were gonna have a meeting, then they
we were,
weren't informed.
They were based on a gentleman's talk.
you were told that we were having a meeting tonight, correct, and this would be discussed.
Yeah.
Yes. We were.
Why else would you invite bidders if you weren't gonna talk about the bid?
We didn't
invite-
invite anybody. We told them there was gonna be a meeting.
Oh,
We did not invite anybody.
I personally.
We're not gonna
think-
keep them away.
I
They're
mean,
not
you know
in-
what,
Right.
anyways,
I just think when you have a discussion, if I discuss something with Alex, and he asks me a question, I said, I'm gonna answer it. These guys were told there's gonna be a discussion, if we ask them a question, they should be allowed to answer it.
the problem you have, I don't necessarily, I totally agree with you, but I think what he's concerned about is one of the bidders that's not here may say, what I said was, one of the bidders that isn't here may say, I wasn't told to come to this meeting, or I wasn't invited to this meeting, or I didn't know you were gonna do this meeting. That's what he's concerned about.
Yeah.
Alex, when you talk to these guys, what do you tell
I
them?
guess, and that would be a great concern if you deviated from low bid.
Yeah.
In other words, if you take the low bid, they can complain all they want, because that's the low bid.
So if you put-
The gray water starts to come in if you start to deviate, because now you might be basing your decision not on the bid submitted, but based on information gathered.
Vince?
Deputy Mayor.
Yes, sir.
So, perhaps, if you make the decision to go in the direction of rehabbing the space versus replacing the space, and you have the low bidder here, which is Walker, for rehab, what would the concern be of inviting questions from Mr. Walker to articulate whether he understands what we need in the other three areas?
The big problem is they can't make a decision tonight to go in any direction. This is,
Well,
the public meeting is over, they can't do that.
Well, so they have just a conversation, and they say, assuming that we go in the direction of rehab, then let's have a conversation about that.
This
And-
council doesn't have, we don't have the authority to vote on who we pick anyways. The parking authority is looking to us for direction on whether we wanna rehab or reconstruct. So, I think.
Questions?
The parking authority has had almost 2 years, and they've done nothing.
Year and a half.
Year and a half, okay, that's
Well,
Stretch
stretch.
this, it's gonna make the city worse.
We're in our 16th month,
Right.
but nothing has been done.
Right.
And that's what is irritating the citizens.
Well, it's irritating us too, Peg.
Well, I understand that, but why isn't the parking authority accounting to this council? They are appointed by
They are, believe me,
But
they are.
that's not,
Well, they're
that's
not
for
coming.
We're not,
discussion.
yeah, I mean.
The
Marty's
question
been
is,
at
the
every
bottom line is, do we wanna rebuild the whole thing or rehab it? There's about, what, 800,000 to $1 million difference, which is about 50% over. If we decide to rebuild it, it's gonna cost us close to 50% more than it would to rehab it.
I also think you need to take into consideration the fact that if you do a full reconstruction, you're gonna be shutting down and taking parking off of both Weldon Street and Spring Street for
The
a couple of
demolition.
months because of the demolition of the sidewalls. And
Both the contractors agree that the parapets, the walls in that building are in perfectly good shape. Correct, gentlemen?
Yes.
They don't need to be replaced, correct?
There's some repairs.
Minimum.
Okay,
And
is that fine, Mr. Kelly? That question?
I didn't hear
You're
you.
stretching it.
Huh? I am not stretching.
Well, I would say we asked that question. Kenny and I were
Yes.
there at the bid opening, and I think we asked Nathan that same question too when we were sitting
Right.
there, and he,
One other thing, just keep in mind, whatever number you see here, add about 850,000 to that, just to start.
Well, we understand, we
right,
want to
right.
wrap around
And I
lawn.
think, to Richard's point, I think that's why we have to go, I mean, that's a big reason. We have to add $850,000 to the bond because that's what we still have on our outstanding bond. Plus, we need to add some money because we wanna do some different things. We talked about maybe not having parking meters, but having, an arm
Credit card.
type
Yeah.
system, like, you
Automated
know,
system.
like the 21st century,
Credit card.
security cameras and so that we don't have the, you know, the damage and things in
What I've
I know,
done
we've
is-
already, go ahead, Alex, I'm sorry.
Well, just what I've done to try to expedite some of this is, our current loan is with PNC Financial, is to provide them with, 3 years worth of audits and other kinds of accounting information so that they can kind of get us ready. And tomorrow, I'm gonna be meeting with them again to share these numbers so we can get a range of financing options. The interest rates are better now than they were in March.
What are they?
I don't know that.
The 2.9, do you know, Jim? 3.5?
No, I don't think it came down that much.
Not
They
that
did
low.
come down that much.
I mean, I guess the point is, we had originally said 2.5 to 3.5, and we're probably gonna be at 3.5 with reconstruction.
That's the whole thing?
That's
And
the rehab.
do all the bidders agreed that if we don't go with, Gibson Thomas set up specs to what is called SP10, the steel, the existing steel, which is, I guess,
We
bridge.
can negotiate that on the change order.
Yeah,
Right.
there's the paint.
That will further, if we change that, that will further reduce, I guess, rather significantly.
Yes.
I'm just addressing the audience.
Yeah,
It can be done
and-
with the change order.
yeah,
It can
and,
be, so that would probably reduce it rather 10%, let's say, throw that figure out.
we don't know, throw any figures out, Kenny, you
No.
don't know, we don't know.
How much would it change? I mean, like, Alex brought some stuff up last month, and do we wanna do the whole garage? You know, like, bottom 2 floors might be okay, and.
We
Well,
met,
that
we
would
met with
just-
Mo today, Mo Bijo, we, had her for lunch and, talked to her because I figured if anybody knows how full that parking garage, it would be her. And I don't know, Alex, you guys, I kinda was at a different table, so what's your take on what she told you?
Well, I mean, sure, she felt that it was full and it was used.
And especially if we decide not to use the top floor, so that we don't have to solve it and stuff in the winter time, that forces everybody down into those other floors. It was pretty fully utilized.
You know, there's certain factors that we just have to take into consideration, and that all the contractors agreed that rehab, this would last for years, given proper maintenance, and one of the big things was washing the garage down once a year at the end of winter, I would presume would probably be the best time, just a good bath, you know, which hadn't been done. Well, that's the nature of the construction too, you know, so given today's technology, today's construction methods, that a good bath once a year.
Joe?
Yes, Joe?
For a number of years, we've used the Latrobe Fire Department to come in once a year, clean it from top to bottom, and they are given a donation.
Right.
So Alex, meet with Mo, you satisfied using that whole parking garage?
I'm sorry, what?
That's fine.
Oh.
Again, my frustration is, I don't know the data to determine, is that garage necessary, 299 spaces to best meet the needs of this town? You know, and what frustrates me, and I think it frustrates you, maybe in July of 2010, you thought, hey, we'll repair it and it'll be open by Christmas. I don't know if anybody really understood what was happening, and now we've kind of got ourselves into a quagmire. If somewhat of a quagmire of indecision, to be honest with you, and part of that is we don't have the data. What does the town need in relation to parking spaces? Does it need 289 at that spot, or could it get by with 150? You don't have before you any data, and I don't have any data to back up what it needs.
It just amazes me that they're gonna park up that top building and walk down 3 levels, 4 levels, and then walk clear over the Depot Street here. And the main bitch was about walking.
Well, the
And
thing
there
that,
before, they were parking maybe down 3 blocks down here and walking on a level level road.
we can
Now,
debate, yeah, we can debate that forever. I mean, and you'll probably get 10 people that'll give you 10 different answers. I mean, but the bottom line, I think, is we've gotta make a decision, and,
The bottom line is, we don't have everybody here to even get to the bottom line.
No,
All the
that's not
parties
true.
interested.
No,
That's
but
not true.
the decision that we need to come up with is whether or not we wanna rebuild or rehab it. Myself, I'm leaning very strongly toward rehabbing it for any number of
But
reasons.
does the parking authority have that same interest as you do?
Well, supposedly, we're the financial people. I mean, we won't do it if they want, you know, we won't.
If
We
you
only
wait
have so
another-
much money.
No, we
If you
can't.
just wait another year, you won't need
No.
the garage.
Exactly,
Right, exactly. And Alex's idea about the 2 levels, one coming off, that was great if it would have been proposed
A year
ago, but we're at, you know,
Mr. Deputy Mayor, again, I think that we could borrow probably $3,500,000. I disagree with the solicitor on borrowing the highest amount, you know, and then going back. With $3,500,000, you could do, the rehab that Walker's put out, $2,200,000. He said it's $80,000 for the plumbing and electrical.
No.
No, well, that was in his original.
Well, it is
I-
original, but it's still there, the figure's still there. There's 800,000 we owe on the old loan, and you're gonna need about 200,000 probably in miscellaneous.
right.
You could get that over a 20-year period, at about 18 or 19,000 a month. And I think if you look at the past, the revenues that we get in would justify that. You could make that.
You could make that note.
You could make that note. If not, even with a small modest increase, and I'm not talking about doubling the rates of the parking, I'm talking a modest increase, I'm sure you could make it. So therefore, my opinion, I feel we ought to go with the rehab, and, let's tell the parking authority that's what we want.
I agree wholeheartedly. I don't know how you
And we
guys
can get
feel
this
about
done.
that, rehab versus reconstruction.
Mike?
I was thinking, I remember Marty saying that even with the rate that he wants and stuff like that, can be awfully tight to,
I thought there
make
was
that.
$220,000, I thought they said there was $220,000 revenue a year from that.
That's about what it'll take in,
Which is-
right?
and he said that's gonna be awfully hard. with the
Why don't we
increases.
have those exact figures?
We don't know. We can't project.
The bottom line is, if it's gonna be hard at $3.5 million, we can't possibly do the whole thing.
That's
And we're gonna need
the
$4.5
point.
million,
You
so.
go over 3.5 million, we can't do it.
Well, as I computed, Mr. Jim, if we went with the low bidder to rehab, and we added, I think we're about 720 on the old one.
Okay.
That takes us to 2,920,000. If we wanna finance no more than 3.5 million, that gives us 580,000 for the electrical, mechanical, and the plumbing. So the big question is that a reasonable target? And are we comfortable with that? And the second big question is, do we have a plan B if those three would go over 580,000?
We talking about Three River Stadium, and they built the stadium for $30 million, and 30 years later, they built the new one, we still owe $30 million. You're saying $270,000, we still own that parking garage?
No,
Think about 720,000.
720, that's
Some of
on
that's the fire truck.
That's the fire
That's the
truck.
last bond issue.
Which included the.
Which
$750
included the
million
fire truck, some of
truck.
it went to the garage, some of it purchased the fire truck, yeah. That was about a $600,000 fire truck, remember that guy?
So anyways, I think what Marty told us today, that the parking authority is looking to us for what we wanna do.
And he's in favor of rehabbing.
He's in favor of rehabbing.
Very solidly.
Yeah, why don't we
Rehab
just get
corner.
it done, and let's go with it, you know? I think we can finance it, I think the money's there, and we've got the bidders.
Start tomorrow.
Yes, yes.
Well, yeah, it's gonna take a little time to get the whole finance.
Oh, absolutely.
We know.
Why can't
I'm
the
sorry.
general
We just have to know the
contractor
number.
control the three?
What, Ron?
They're gonna supervise the electrical and that, right? The general contractor?
Yeah.
Why don't they get the bids and include it into theirs, since they're gonna be
Well,
responsible?
Ron, I don't wanna bid this again. We bid it twice. If we do that, we have to go back to Gibson Thomas, we have to rebid the whole thing again. We're
The
looking
reason
at-
why is we did a design build bid and let the general contractor put in whatever design he wanted for that, rather than have a set bid and say, you bid on this, and the whole project, from apples and soup to nuts. We opted not to do that for whatever reason, and that's the option we chose. So now, we're at this crossroads.
So are we, not that we're voting, but are we somewhat in agreement that Alex can, relay to the parking garage, parking authority?
I think so. I'd say 20 years, Alex.
What do you guys
Get
think?
the figures for 3.3 million, 3.4 million, and 3.5 million. And bring them back to us in the,
I mean, we can say what we want, but if we can't afford that, we can't afford that, and then we're gonna go to, then that's gonna be plan B.
No,
I mean, you can't afford a payment on 3.5 million.
Well, we can, that's the max.
We think we can.
Well, I've heard that story before too, but she's divorced from me, so.
Is that one gonna make the paper?
Come on,
You're talking about, $240,000 a year versus, right now, we're paying $175 on that bond?
yeah, but the city was taken down around 50 or 60.
The total bond is 175, so now the total bond is gonna go up to, just roughly speaking, at 1,900 a month. You're talking about,
220,000.
yeah, on 200, yeah.
Well, the city was taking out about 75,000 a year to pay expenses to the town. We're passing out the tickets and the parking tickets.
I understand it. What I'm saying is now you're talking about the parking authority kicking in 125 and the city kicking in 50 towards that $175,000 bond. That's what we're doing right now, I believe.
No, they estimated their revenues at.
Today's bond. The bond we're paying, we want to wrap up.
$220,000.
They estimated their revenue at $220,000, but I'm not sure.
Paying the entire bond.
Right, and that's without, I think that's
You know,
without,
within a couple of
without an
bucks.
increase.
But Mr. Kapor, I think what you guys are asking me to do is not only to find out on the cost side, but do an analysis on the revenue side. I can tell you, for example, and I'm just trying, it's like an onion, and I haven't gotten to the center of it yet, but we're running about 40% less than we did about in 2008, which was a full 2 years before the garage went down. You know, we might do 190,000 in that parking authority this year. So what you're asking, and what I'm going to be doing and preparing for you as we move forward, is both sides. The revenue picture with the idea that the garage is fully open, with the idea of what kind of rates you're going to need to charge, both the monthly passes and hourly rates, you know, and then the cost side. What will all this cost to finance? Because they both need to.
We gonna have a parking meter made again?
Huh?
We gonna have a parking.
We do have right now, a person who's doing maybe what, 12 or 14 hours a week of enforcement.
She's not gonna.
Yeah,
She's not gonna.
yeah.
And what we'd like to do, to be honest with you, is, we can't add personnel to this city. But we can spend money on technology which will enhance the personnel we have. And there are ways to be more efficient in the collecting of both revenue through the meters themselves and the assessment of fines and enforcement, which gets people to participate, shall we say, in parking meters.
I'm trying to stay open-minded.
Hey, let me,
Well, but this gets down to your revenue side. In other words, you're gonna have, what I'm suggesting is when you finance this, if you, whatever route you choose, that you take advantage of technology, allow the revenue to be enhanced by the meter maid having a handheld computer that would tell them different things and give them data as the day goes on to get more money, to get better enforcement, and to get more participation.
but what we need to do, I'd like to see the parking authority schedule a meeting within the next week. And so we can get this thing moving, and I think we're all in agreement
Thursday?
that we can't borrow more than $3.5 million, so that automatically puts us in a restoration, rehab position. So we need to move, and that's, you know, I know there's a lot of work that needs to be done. There's gonna take time to get the bond, but if we don't get the parking authority to make that recommendation, to approve that, we're not gonna be doing anything for another couple of weeks, and I just don't wanna see that happen. So, you guys all okay with that? Because what's gonna happen then is they're gonna come back to us and say, we need $3.5 million, and we have to agree that we're gonna do that. By the time all that stuff happens, we should have a lot of these questions answered.
And again, I would imagine, solicitor, we're looking at the November meeting for this body to make a decision.
Well, we can either do it at the,
Agenda
agenda
session.
session by advertising of a special meeting. We can do it any given night of the week, as long as council's willing to come, and we can advertise.
But you have a lot of work still.
Right. I mean, I think, I'd be real happy if we were in a position at the November meeting to say go.
I would like to see it done at our agenda prep meetings October 31st.
Yes, she changed.
31st, yeah, we changed
Oh.
it to the
Oh, okay.
2 weeks prior.
Well,
to
then,
the-
if we can do it then, that'd be great, that'd be fine. We
Ghouls
can
and
have everything
goblins
ready.
night, huh?
Pardon me?
Ghouls and goblins night.
That's right. Be apropos.
Okay.
Yeah, I think
We
once
okay?
we get the amortization schedule over 20 years for the three figures that I mentioned to Alex, I think we'll have a better idea whether the revenue will equal or not equal what we have to pay.
But I think, you know, like, when Marty was here this morning, and he told us he apologized, he wasn't gonna be able to make the meeting today, he had a family commitment, so, but he was at the bid opening, and he said, basically, you guys let us know the direction you want us to take, and I think.
And just for the
we can
record, we
communicate
haven't
that.
discussed, when they bid this in September, they were asking for the maintenance cost for 10 years.
Right.
And those were also kind of wild in their fluctuation, but the rule of thumb within the industry is $1,000 per space over 10 years. So if you have 289 spaces, it's gonna be about $289,000 to maintenance that garage to the high degree that you're not deteriorating rapidly. I say that to say, that's another factor which we haven't discussed. And what people need to realize in this town is that parking's not for free, even if it was. That whatever rates you set may not be enough to handle these costs, and that quite possibly general revenue, real estate taxes and income taxes of this town may be used to not only subsidize possibly the financing and operation of the garage, but again, the maintenance as well of the whole parking system within this town. That's a reality that we haven't quite had that open discussion, but we've not talked about the maintenance side and what that costs on a 10-year, let's say, schedule.
That's the common thing, if the people in this town with their parking lots, you gotta realize their taxes are going up, the bottom line, it's gonna happen. We can't afford it.
Not necessarily, not
Well, the
necessarily.
maintenance, you wait till you see what the maintenance is gonna come up and cost you on that
Well,
over
he
the next
said
few
that
years.
289,000 over 10 years, that's $28,900 a year.
The
So we
maintenance
have to
ain't
build
free.
into
It ain't
the
cheap.
parking meter rates and the permit rates enough to cover that.
Our city's not gonna do the maintenance on it, that's all.
I
we're
understand.
saying.
No, I just want you to understand again. This
So in
unfortunately.
addition to your bond payments, you're gonna have another 28 or 29,000 for maintenance.
Better bump that a little more.
Is our state grant definitely done? That's definitely.
What?
The state grant we had before that was never released for the garage, is that definitely gone?
I don't think it's gone. I mean, I think it's still out there. I don't know how easily we're gonna get that money, but we'll have to call Kim Ward. Alex, do you know about that? That money, the Kim Ward money?
I have emailed Kim Ward today, and I've given her,
Nobody's mentioned it for-
I've given a range to her. The RCAP funding, as recently as a month ago or so, or a few weeks ago, I was told, let's put it this way, the way it works is it's the state's capital budget. You have to be in the list, but that's just one step. You have to get approved and released by the governor. So I think we have ourselves in the list, okay, this project. There's about $20 billion worth of projects on the list and about $2 billion worth of funding. So the governor's gotta decide, is this worth it? And at that point, if the decision is yes, it would fund about 50% of this. We still would have to pay for the other 50%. But in the meanwhile, that's paperwork and time. You know, we've got to pursue the parallel tracks and kind of get this bond financing in place. But we're not giving up on Senator Ward, and who knows where that will lead. But today I did, again, they can't do anything until we tell them a number. It's that same game. I can't just sit there and say, well, I got a range of 2.8 to 3.8, see what rolls. No, they want to know a number so they can begin the process of issuing it. And that's why these decisions are so critical. Just
So we gotta, so you think maybe the parking authority can meet on Thursday? Maybe, this week, and we can maybe have something ready to go by our agenda prep meeting on the 31st for us to vote on.
We might wanna have the, 3 construction companies here on the prep meeting.
I don't
too.
think I want, you know what, if we're making a decision, I don't wanna it's just gonna muddy the water if we start asking all kind of questions again. I mean, if we've decided we're going with rehab, then we go with the low bidder. I mean, cause there's all kinds of.
Who do we have here today?
Huh?
Who do we have here today? Construction office.
CPS Construction and Carl Walker.
Carl Walker.
Let's call Walker. Who's the other one?
CPS. So, I think you know where we're at. Okay, ready, that's it? Anybody else have anything?
Thank you.
Yeah, you can talk to him, Brian.